This mask, it's called the Black Tiger mask, and catch can wrestling, which came from England. Somehow the Japanese sent guys to Mexico to learn lucha libre, and they incorporated lucha libre from high flying flips and everything. So they mix it all together. I start seeing guys, throwing elbows, punches, kicks here in the United States. I would say with the Cambodian Americans. It depends by generations. So with Kun Khmer, it came after that. And to correct you, it's pronounced Bokator.
Bokator.
So yeah, Bokator introduced Cambodian culture as much like every Cambodian or Cambodian American. They love Sensi Samut. Yeah, we
Legend.
like rap back in Cambodia. Like I see the progressions. Like Vanda, he was doing all.
I think if you're listening to him, you know that he just dropped a new album which is called Skull 2. What's up, Mr. Kun Kumar? What's up, bro? How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much. So, guys, first of all, let me tell you guys what we are going to be talking about and who is our guest today, Mr. Kun Khmer, who is from Atlanta, Georgia, living in the United States, but whose family belong from Cambodia, and he's a big fan of Kun Khmer Martial Art and a lot of things that I'm really interested about, and a lot of people I'm sure that don't know a lot of things about Khmer culture, martial arts, about the arts, in general. So he got knowledge about things that I'm interested about, and I'm damn sure that you guys also interested about. So we are gonna be getting into that. But before that, I want to say, my brother Kun Khmer, please introduce yourself to your people. If you want to introduce yourself in English, that's totally fine, better for me. But if you want to start with Khmer language, that's also okay to me.
My name is Kun Khmer Enthusiast. I run a Instagram page and a Facebook page. Currently, I haven't even started a YouTube page yet, but later on I will. I've been into Kun Khmer since probably when I was as a kid. The first time I was very exposed to it is when my grandfather brought some tapes that is like, television recorded. And, I started, picking up one of the VHS tapes, the big black tapes, kids these new generation, they wouldn't know what a VHS tape is, but put it in, and it started from there. I start seeing guys, throwing elbows, punches, kicks. It's somehow fascinating back in 1997, 98. And that's when the whole, Pride MMA started from Japan. So I got into that from that exposure from my cousin. So with Kun Khmer, it came after that, and I was like, oh snap, this is pretty cool. It's very brutal, and I loved it. During my teenage year, I was at a conference. My parents took me to this conference.
So
And
another thing, bro, sorry for interrupting, but I want to just add that you
yeah,
were born in the state, right? But your
yes, I was
family,
born.
they belong from Cambodia.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
My parents are refugees, so they came to the United States in the mid '80s, and of course, with the Cambodian culture, it's connected to me. It's been shrouded, it's been surrounded to me,
Yeah.
so it's built in.
And about Kun Khmer martial art, we're gonna be talking more about it. But before that, I want to know about the secret of your mask, because I think this is also somehow connected to some kind of wrestling or something. If you can, you know,
Yes,
talk about your
yes,
mask.
yes. This mask, it's called the Black Tiger mask, and pretty much it goes back since during when Japan Pro Wrestling started introducing a mixed style of lucha libre and strong style. Strong style is actually based off of um, catch can wrestling, which came from England, and then it came over to Japan, and it influenced the Japanese on wrestling. So they learned, chokeholds, very brutal neck cranks, leg locks, and almost everything. And somehow the Japanese sent guys to Mexico to learn lucha libre, and they incorporated lucha libre from high flying flips and everything. So they mix it all together to make a one hybrid wrestling style. I think one of my favorite wrestlers, Eddie Guerrero. He used to be the Black Tiger Mask. Before him, there was someone else. It's usually mainly the foreigners that become the Black Tiger Mask.
Since we're talking about Kun Khmer Martial Art, and you said about how you exposed or first time came to know about it, like, can you tell us a little bit story, the history behind Kun Khmer Martial Art, how it started, or like whatever you know from the beginning?
To start it off, like a good brief history about Kun Khmer and Cambodia as a whole history. Cambodia before it was Indianized. It was just basically just people that hunter and gatherers from the rice cultivation to you got the Bronze Age. That's when people started migrating to Southeast Asia, and then you got the Iron Age. The Iron Age is quite interesting because when I first read about warriors in Southeast Asia, um, this Japanese archaeologist, he went to Cambodia, northwest of Cambodia, near the border, and he was intrigued by how people were buried. So in the beginning, it was women warriors that had swords and jewelries. They say these kind of type of beads or jewelries, they say they came from India. So somehow this trade migrated, somehow got to the beads, because it's similar to other places. Like in Japan, they also got beads from India, and also in Yunnan, China, where they got beads as well. So from that start, it started out as like, oh, women warriors. It's quite interesting. And then as I gradually, started reading more about it, you know, later on, Cambodia became Indianized. It's more structural.
Mhm.
They had a navy in the beginning, so it's called the Funan Period. So the Funan Period is basically they were built on trade and trade. So with all these influence coming into the country, they pick things up. And later on, you got the Chenla Period. The Chenla Period is like basically it's where it starts to advance. It's like an advanced. It's been like more Indianized. So they at that point, Cambodia religion is like you got animist, and then you got Hinduism, and you got Buddhism, all mixed
That's
and
why it's kind
fused.
of mixed. That's why it's kind of mixed.
Yeah.
Like there are too many cultures mixture I have seen in the culture.
Yes. Yes, because I believe that Cambodia is not it's not just Khmer people. It's just a confederation of
Variety.
people that are coming along, and then they get intermarried, and then later on they adapt to the culture. So they learn how to read and write and everything. So they get into it. So that's like people saying like, hey, I'm born in the United States. My parents are from Cambodia, but I'm adapted to the American culture.
Mhm.
I'm learning English and learning media from American culture. So that's what it is. It's like you're attached to that culture when you were
Definitely.
born. Yeah.
Definitely.
So you start off, you got the Korean period. The Korean period is the greatest era in Cambodian history. It shows that it's shows that the empire was very 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 well completely structured, and at that time before that there were some series of wars. So to go with that, Cambodia, you know when it was Indianized, it was pretty much, you got the caste system. You got the Brahmins, you got the warriors, and then you got all the commoners, and then you got you got the slaves.
Mhm.
So basically, there's a theory that says that either the Brahmins or the warrior class pretty much introduced Cambodian culture. They Most of the kings would have titles in their names. So you got, before it used to be Yuda, means like fighting in Sanskrit. I'm not really good with the Sanskrit pronunciation, but you got Yuda, and then later on, from the Chenla period, starting to change a little bit. It goes to Varman, and it's like, okay, this is a little different. And then later on, the Khmer Empire period, they're all Varmans. That's how they got all the titles for as a warrior. So when you think about it, if you compare samurais to Cambodian warriors, they pretty much pick up similar titles. You know, it's based on a warrior system.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much what it is in during the Angkor period.
There is another thing is very practicable in the Khmer culture, I think, if I'm not wrong. That's Bokator, or how do you pronounce that? Bokator martial art or something. Do you know about that, bro? Like, what is that, and what's the basic difference between that Kun Khmer martial art and Bokator?
It's to correct you, it's pronounced Bokator.
Bokta.
So well, yeah, Bokator, or originally it's La Bokator. Then they pretty much shorten it up, called Bokator. So so the difference between those two martial arts, I mean, Kun Khmer used to call Pradal Saray. So it's basically a sports boxing. But before, you know, Pradal Saray, it was pretty much brutal. Back then, they either fight with, you know, they fight with like hand wraps. The type of hand wrap is all fabric. Some say it's hemp rope. I read things about it that a French explorer, he went to a village in Cambodia, south of Cambodia, and he experienced a holiday. And what he wrote in his account, that what they do back then, they used back in the 19th century. So I'm talking about the 1800s. So we're fast forward from the
Yeah, yeah.
Victorian period. So fast forward to that, they wrap it, and then they added glass. So basically, they have some adhesive. It could be type of glue from the tree sapping, or it could be a boat glue. So what they do, they crush the glass and then they just rub it on their fists.
Mhm.
So yeah, back then it's pretty brutal, and they also incorporate, also like with that, he mentioned wrestling. So the Khmer's also did wrestling, and there were two people. There were two groups. You got the ethnic Khmer and the Cham people. They were both celebrating the holidays, so they were actually practicing both of the arts. You know,
Mhm.
because I read one account. This woman, she wanted to marry a wrestler, and she was talking about it, and she was all nervous. She's about to talk to him, so it gets really in detail. But everything it's in that book that I read is in French.
So
So,
which one started first? Kun Khmer, right?
um, well, when you think about it, what really started first, you got warfare. So from warfare to sports. So that's how it transitioned.
As much as I know about you, you also have been a fighter or a martial art artist, or like you learned that, right? So how was your experience learning
Um,
my martial art?
uh, I did well here in the United States. The states that I live in, they don't have Kun Khmer. But I practice, other martial arts as well. Uh, I did a bit of karate, and later that I did judo for quite a while, and then I started transitioning to do a Brazilian
Judo is
jiu-jitsu.
not from Cambodia, right?
And no, it's Japanese martial arts. So for some reason I got into Japanese martial arts because I want to know about Japanese,
Mhm.
culture as well. So I'm pretty well connected with my coach because I talk to him about things like, hey, what kind of techniques that they do in a sports setting or a self-defense setting. So
Mhm.
I mean, martial arts, it was pretty much revolves around me. So I started, um, um, feeding information in my head. So yeah, I did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for a while, and everything what I like, grappling based art. It's my favorite.
I'd like to know about the Khmer neighborhood in the state or the place around you. Like, how is the Khmer hood in your neighborhood? Like, if you got Khmer neighborhood around you, the American Khmer people, about that neighborhood, how they are, their
Um,
lifestyle, if they are, practicing their culture or no, or like the people already forget their culture and adopt the American culture, that's also fine. Like, how the people are being raised and representing their own culture in America.
Here in the United States, I would say with the Cambodian Americans, it depends by generation. So as my generation is like we're very well connected. As for like the newer generations, they you know you know
Kind of unknown to their.
it's kind of yeah exactly. It's because they're trying to learn the language, and I'm doing the same thing as well.
Do you speak Khmer,
I'm
bro?
yes, I can speak a little. I'm not that good at it,
Fluent.
but I'm like pretty much close to maybe I'm about intermediate, so I can
Yeah.
understand it. Like basically if I watch like a Kun Khmer fight, I still understand what they're saying. But
Yeah.
when I speak it, I was like, oh, maybe I might say something
That's
wrong or
like
do anything
your
wrong.
that's like your second language. Like when you start speaking, not like the first language the way you speak fluently English, not like that.
Yeah, like first it's Khmer because at that time I was a kid and then I started speaking it. But when you go to school, like an American school, you get adapted so much with
Definitely.
American culture.
Right.
You instantly like know English. So
Exactly.
it's like a gap. Yeah.
That's what my question is. Like how the people are changing. Like they are remembering the things, or they are just, blowing away with the flow, the American flow.
It's like it's a hybrid now. Yeah. Because they still, like with, you see like the old generations, like like people in their mid 30s to 40s, they still like the old classic Cambodian music. Like how I grew up. I grew up listening to that when I was a kid because that's the golden era back in the 60s. Like they play really good music and it's a mix with all kinds of influence from Cuba to like French to Italian. Like it's how we adapt to because we're connected to the music as well. Like you go to the temple, they teach us how to be respectful to the monks. So that's also part of the culture as well.
Talking about music, you already said about 60s classic and stuff. Like if I tell you to, your some of your favorite artists that you used to listen to, or maybe you listen to, still you listen to from the oldies, who you mention?
Um, I mean, like everyone says, as much like every Cambodian or Cambodian American,
Mhm.
they love Cincy Samut.
Sense of Sound.
Yeah, we
Legend.
like yeah, like he's basically I could say describe him as the Tony Bennett uh of Cambodia or the Frank Sinatra of
Like the
Cambodia.
core. The,
Yes. Because the history about him, he wanted he started going to school. He wanted to go into the medical field, and but all of a sudden, like he's attached to music. He loved music, so he started singing.
new generation, maybe you are listening to this music also nowadays. The music is going on in Cambodia. Like what kind of music you are liking these days from Cambodia?
Um, with their hip hop culture that is being in bringing in, I actually like it. What I see is like back then. I mean, rap back in Cambodia, like in the 2000s, it wasn't. It was kind of, but I see the progressions like, oh, okay, it's getting a lot better. But with before, Vanda, he was doing all, other songs before he was popping out. So like he made really good music. Plus he can freestyle like very well. I was like in the beginning, I was like, this guy, he's gonna be
Somewhere.
he's gonna be somewhere. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I'm like, oh snap.
Yeah, I mean it's like a revelation. I mean, the thing wasn't popping up that time back in 2000 or like early 2000. Just
Yeah.
after 2010 or 15, it's just boom, a revelation, and people are accepting the thing. That's what it is. Like,
The thing is with music, it's always changed every 5 to 10 years because you got kids of the new generation. They want newer things. They want
new
to
sound, definitely.
explore a lot. Because since we live in a digital age now with social media, everyone is so connected. Like for me, if there just say if there wasn't a YouTube, I wouldn't know much about Kun Khmer. I have to go search it on the internet, try to read it, go to different websites and try to figure it out. But with with the technology going on with social media, like all of us become one. We we learn from each other. It's the same thing like in the past, like like the trade with like how Europeans go to Asia and then they traded with locals with fruits and everything. Like for example, like tomatoes and potatoes and chilies,
Hmm.
those are from like Central America. Those were brought by the Spanish and the
True,
Portuguese. They
true,
go to Southeast Asia. They brought everything and then they just plant everything, try to grow it, and then just ship it out.
true,
So
true.
they introduce vegetables.
That's how it is.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
Bro, talking about Vanda, like I have done a lot of interviews in my channel, but none of my interviews has been done without when we talk about music, everybody mentioned about Vanda and his music these days. I think if you're listening to him, you know that he just dropped a new album which is called Skull 2. I mean,
Yeah.
yesterday he dropped it.
Yes. I've heard
So
about it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, have you heard any of his songs from that album, or you
I
liked
have
anyone?
not yet because I'm planning to look through his album and
Yeah,
see it.
that's a crazy album, bro. I personally recommend you to watch it. I mean, I was listening to some of the songs in Spotify. Let's coming back to Kun Kumar Martial Art, or the martial
Okay,
art that
okay.
we started talking about. Why do you think that somebody, a random person like me or like you, should, practice or learn these martial arts?
To say martial art in general, if you're into culture, the language, if you want to get connected, you can do the traditional kind of Cambodian martial art. Um, like there's Bokator, there's Yutukun. Um, these two, they're pretty much a big back then were the two were the like the names during back in 2000. Um, um, and also you got Badal Saray, but Badal Saray is now Kun Khmer now. So they changed it to Kun Khmer in 2000s as well. Um, if you plan to practice, um, just dive into it and learn as much as you can. Um, um, there are techniques that may not work for you or don't work for you, but that's the point of martial art. It's like a science because like, oh, just say like, oh, I can't do this kick, this high kick. What should I do? You go for a low kick. If you're a shorter person, like for short person, like if you can't even having difficulties with like grappling whatsoever, just find a different way. You just keep going and going, like go as you learn and pick a technique that works best for you, especially with the street. It depends because it's going to be a lot dangerous. You might not know if someone have a knife or weapon, but there's a situation that you have to figure out in that
Defense
scenario.
yourself.
Yes, yes. Like for anybody, no matter of where you're from, um, if you want to learn Khmer martial art, just go for it. Just go for it and learn as much. Um, if you're into the sports side and you like how the fighters do it, like on television, just go for it. And if you're into the whole traditional side, which is the martial art, you can learn weapons, you can learn wrestling. Wrestling in Cambodia is definitely a major, because there's only two villages left in Cambodia that still practice the art. Learning those martial arts, it's very beneficial for anybody, and plus, it's you want to connect to your own roots, because like you don't want to lose those those things in part of your life. So it's a very important for us, everyone or Khmers, to connect with your culture.
So thank you so much, bro, for joining us. And guys, those of you who want to be connected with brother Kun Khmer, you can connect with him on Instagram. I'm going to be giving his social media links over there in the description.